My name is Bret Bocook, and I am, we talk about the tip of the iceberg, and I'm the tip of the iceberg. I got an anaplastic glioma, an anaplastic astrocytoma. This is my brain on a cell phone, okay? So if you can see there's a baseball-sized tumor and right here, right exactly where the antenna goes. Passed out in the shower. This is 5 years ago, and my heart had stopped. My wife was pregnant, 8.5 months at that time. We lost the baby. She found me in the shower, sick, and I had 2 near-death experiences where I actually died a couple of times for a matter of several minutes before my heart started beating again, and we know that for sure because I was even hooked up to an EKG at one point. And so this has been a series of problems we've had that's impacted our lives severely. And you can see now my mobility and my ability to even function in society is greatly diminished, although I am still mentally sharp. I've used a cell phone to the best of my computation ability about 1 million minutes, which you'd be surprised how fast I can accumulate when you're in business and you're single, dating women and doing business. Okay? Used to be an athlete and very focused on health. And I'm actually a very good indicator of where this is all going because I was so healthy, I didn't have any bad habits. As a matter of fact, I was known as really a health freak in my fraternity. I didn't drink. And probably was the only guy ever in the fraternity ever who didn't drink. Basically in society. And this is probably the biggest it is the biggest human experiment in the history of the world because I quickly realized that there's no epidemiological studies. This is the same trajectory as smoking since it's very difficult to show with smoking epidemiological evidence how this actually leads to lung cancer, but now everyone knows it leads to lung cancer. And that's what's going to happen with cell phones, but it's not quite there. So I started really taking this seriously, and I found out that there's been a series of patents filed, and I'll just give you just an example. So the industry's been filing patents in anticipation of this happening, of this groundswell of evidence and of people actually getting sick.
Patents to make safer phones.
Patents to make safer phones and antennas. And I'm just going to read just a partial part of this. On July 28, 1998, Nokia received a patent for shielding a layer between the antenna and the user to reduce electromagnetic radiation of the user. The application for their patent that they provided to said the cell phone antenna is a few centimeters from the brain, the hearing organs, and the organs, etc., and it has been suggested that the RF radiation induces changes in electrical status, in the ion balance of the nerve cells, and continuous realized exposure to radio frequency has been suggested to weaken the myelin sheaths of cells and eventually lead to impairment of hearing. And it's also been suggested that in the worst cases can lead to development of malignant tumor, which is what happened to me.
We published in 2004 the first paper about the genetic effects which are modified by the radiation. In that case, we use the 900 megahertz radiation, which is the telephone. Most important, I think, is the different regulation of a cell cycle genes, which are involved in regulating the proliferation of the cell and the death of the cells, apoptosis, for example, and also at the very low level of signal, which is below the low limits, which are permitted by law.
The newest studies show that 10 years of heavy use of cell phones,
2 to 8 times full use.
2 to 8 times more glioma like what you have. And every study that has adequate power to find this effect finds it.
And I've been totally just fooled into this whole thing, this science, that kind of greenhouse mentality. Who there's cooking up their own science, and and they're persuading people on lies that they're working for the industry. The industry and the lobbyists are tied together. It's all the same thing. It's all political. They put me in this role. They enrolled me in this study on cell phones and on brain tumors, and they didn't even ask me in a 2-hour-long interview as to what I was using on a cell phone. I didn't use a cell phone.
Right.
I had to tell them I was using a cell phone, and she didn't even have a category in her checkbook. I meet, I go, this is not credible. I go, you're somehow either funded or bought off by the industry, and I'm not participating in your study anymore. So I'm leaving. I walked over. This has to be tracked parallel to this. Is Wi-Fi, obviously, which is a bigger societal issue probably than this, potentially, and how it's going to affect our society. And like I'm doing with Wi-Fi in my house, in my kid's school. My kids every day is going to school and getting radiated. And the reason why I showed you that patent is that patent shows foreknowledge, okay? Foreknowledge, which almost brings us to a criminal situation, because I just had a friend 3 weeks ago who died of a glioblastoma brought on by a cell phone. And if you can establish the fact that these guys had foreknowledge of a dangerous product and they still marketed it and misrepresented the fact that that's beyond fraud and that's beyond civil, that's criminal. That's what happened with asbestos, that's what happened with cigarettes, and this is the third epidemic. This is more of a pandemic that's going to be across the world if something is not done about it.